Phase Zero, back with you for another bonus episode. I'm your host today, Jenna Anderson, and I am joined by Jamie Jirac
Good morning.
and Aaron Perrine.
And say my name and I will appear. What's going on?
We have the Fantastic Three here today, and we were trying to figure out what to do for a bonus episode because our Foxverse rewatch is now done. You can go back and listen to all those delightful episodes. We're going to do our rankings episode of those movies closer to San Diego and Deadpool and Wolverine. And so we were trying to think of what to do, but I feel like the conversation around Deadpool and Wolverine and the never-ending Secret Wars conversation as well has made a lot of weird lesser talked about Marvel projects come back up. I mean, we spent 10 minutes on last Wednesday's episode talking about the Blade TV show. So I feel like this felt like the perfect opportunity to kind of talk about our favorite, like misunderstood, underappreciated Marvel projects. And so we all went around, we all shared with each other what we were going to talk about. So we didn't double up on anything. And we each picked one movie from the MCU and one movie outside of the MCU. And you will see how we stretch those qualifications, but it's a lot of fun. And so so are you guys excited? Y'all ready to go?
Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna say we'll see how we stretch this time.
And yeah, we're no rules. We're not going to time anybody. Just like make your case, make your argument. We can ask each other questions. It's just a very fun, very low key thing. Some of these will be movies that like all of us have seen. Some of these will be movies that probably only one of us has seen. And I feel like that'll be a lot of the fun of it. But yeah, so let's get started. I think we have Jamie going first. And what is your MCU movie pick?
So, the thing about the MCU is that every single MCU project has its fans, right? So, whatever each of us pick, there are going to be people like, well, I love that movie, and that's awesome. But we had to pick some from the MCU, and I think that this one I'm about to say out loud, do you like the suspense I'm teasing, is something that is a little controversial, and that is Avengers Age of Ultron. I think that Ultron has really found its audience, especially recently. I used to see a lot of hate for this film online, and the tides have turned. I think I now see a lot of love for this film, which makes me really happy. But just in case you're a hater, I have chosen it because it is. Let me say this. I'm not saying it's the best Avengers movie, but it is my favorite Avengers movie, and I'm going to talk about why. Listen. The first Avengers movie, I still can't believe exists. You know what I mean? Like, the way that movie came together, it still blows my mind, even with how far we've come in the MCU. But I think Ultron is just the perfect sequel. Because while Infinity War and Endgame are awesome, they're just so high stakes. They're so filled with a zillion characters. Age of Ultron is just the perfect little, here we go, we're adding a few more. The stakes are high, but not that high, not universe ending high. And we get, listen, of course I'm biased because we're introduced to a little character named Wanda Maximoff. And the first time I saw this movie a little over 9 years ago, it changed my life. Like legitimately, that's not an exaggeration. I saw her in this movie and I was like, that's my favorite Marvel character. And then I learned everything I could about that Marvel character, and that's pretty cool. So I also would like to say that I think it has the best, if not one of the best villains in the entire franchise. I think James Spader as Ultron is awesome. I love James Spader, and he is so good in this. There's so much good action in this movie from start to finish. It just the emotions, the comedy. Oh, I love the party scene so much. This is the Avengers movie I watch the most because it brings me so much joy. I could keep going. I'll be honest, I prepared more for the second segment because I knew we'd all know Ultron, so I figured I'd just go off the cuff a little bit. But is there any questions, Jenna or Aaron? Should I expand further on this love and feeling?
I was not surprised in any way, shape, or form when you picked this as your MCU movie. I think you made very valid points. I have had such a weird history with this movie. I remember when the San Diego Comic-Con trailer dropped and like they had the I Got No Strings little song playing over it and thinking like, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like that just sounded incredible. I loved the movie when it first came out. I think I kind of joined the dogpiling of like finding flaws in it. I still definitely do think it probably has flaws, but it is a fun viewing experience and it is fun to see the group together. I almost wish we had another movie of this scale that's like a little bit smaller before we got into Infinity War and Endgame. But yes, I think you made very good points. I don't know what Aaron has, if anything.
Being on the ground for this in the beginning, people were like, it's not quite the same magical experience that the Avengers was, but how could it be? You know, like you're going to do it one time to prove that this whole crazy machine is going to work. So yeah, and I also this thing due to TNT, TBS rewatches
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
2 p.m. during different points of schooling will be like, oh yeah, this is really, really enjoyable. You're right, JB. The party scene that you're referring to is one of the most fanficked things in the entire GD
Yes.
franchise. So it matters quite a bit to a large segment of the people who watch. You know, I laugh because this is why I always joke around with people. We will go through the critical the goofy chart we joke around about, Jenna, where it's like thing comes out, thing is greatest thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
Detractors are like it's not actually that good. Back down to hey, you
Yep.
know what? We actually kind of like this thing again. We are on the fourth dot on that chart with this movie, as other movies have been rehabilitated through time, which this one doesn't have to be like. I laugh because I'm like, oh, it's the MCU's Amazing Spider-Man 2, where now everybody was a fan of this from the word go, and this is a better movie than Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is ridiculous that we even have to get there. So, good choice, Jay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I also want to add that in 2013, I was a casual fan. Like, I was so different from now when my life is talking about these movies, and it was different where like I had seen the trailer a couple times. I didn't know what characters were going to pop up. I was just like I got to show up to the theater probably at midnight because I think they were still doing midnight showings then, but I could be wrong. And just be like at the screen for so long. And yeah, thank you for letting me. I could talk about this for a long time, this movie, but I think that
I also
yeah.
I do want to say one thing of it that is really underappreciated. And I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago because I did catch the end of it on TBS. I caught like the last like 15 minutes of it on TBS or TNT the other day. And I wish that they sold the statue that the end credits are made out of, because that is the coolest thing ever. I remember at the time thinking like, oh, they're going to make some like $1,000 gigantic statue, or they're going to like physically construct that on the Disney lot or whatever. And like that never happened. And that still bums me out because like I know myself and probably BD would gladly drop a stupid sum of money to be able to own that because it looked really cool.
Right.
But yeah, very good pick, Jamie. I'm really
glad. One more thing. Thank you so much. One more thing. It's also one of the last movies that really ties into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's, like an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. leads right into this movie, and and for the rest of the run, there's not like there are nods, but that's the last juicy one. I had to get that out there. I'm officially done with my segment of the MCU.
Now I'm excited for like the notes and the preparation you did for the second half of the show, because if this is just you off the cuff, like we're in for a treat. I can already tell. So I will go next for my MCU pick of most misunderstood MCU movie. So I was thinking about this, and it's like there's the obvious ones that people think of when they say like misunderstood, and oftentimes I feel like it means what Aaron was talking about of like the discourse says that it's bad, and then it dovetails around to suddenly we think it's good. But then I was thinking about it of like I feel like there are a couple movies that just slip through the cracks. Like we don't talk about them as often, and they get just overlooked in the grand scheme of things. And I'm even guilty of this myself, which is crazy when I reveal which movie it is in question. It is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I feel like so much of the conversation around this franchise is always Volume 1 and Volume 3, and 2 just kind of falls to the wayside sometimes. And like I revisited this before Volume 3, and it blew my mind of like, why are we not talking about this movie constantly? I think that it lets the cast really, really grow in some fun ways about like both in the dynamics that they have with each other and just as individual people. I know Jamie probably loves all of the Nebula content in the movie because it feels like she really gets to kind of become a character in a really beautiful way. And I love her dynamic with Gamora. The cinematography is incredible. There's that one shot of Gamora like sitting in the field with like the sunset behind her, and I think about that on a daily basis. I think that is just like gorgeous. And just the stakes are so personal. They are world ending in the grand scheme of things. Like I know everyone always complains about all of the goop kind of like attacking Earth and how we never address that again whatsoever. But it's like, who cares? It's still the arc for Peter and the arc of Peter and Ego is so impactful and is so good. And I just love it so much. And I feel like a lot of this movie in the conversation ultimately gets boiled down to like, oh, that's the Baby Groot movie, or that's the movie that like came out before the group was in Infinity War. And like, we don't really appreciate it for what it is. And I just think that that is crazy, but I get why it happened. So
I will tell you, Tony's going to be so happy to hear that because this is his favorite MCU movie of all time, #1, which
I love
always
it.
blows my mind because, like, I think this is a good movie. I agree with all your points, but favorite? Okay, boy, if you say so. I want to say that this is my least favorite Guardians, but that's not to say it's not good. That's just, it's a really good franchise within the franchise. I will say this movie has my favorite joke in the entirety of the MCU, which is when Gamora yells, "I don't know what Cheers is!" That's my #1 favorite line in all
Of course
of
it
the
is.
MCU. So good work.
Also, I didn't bring up the Yondu stuff, but like there's a reason why that is so impactful. Because yeah, I feel like that's another thing that gets like flanderized when this movie gets talked about in the years later. Of like the Mary Poppins joke just becomes one of the 3 things we always talk about. But like that arc works so well. And then like when they have his little funeral at the end of the movie, like I get affected just thinking about it. Like it is just so beautiful. And the soundtrack is great, which like you're going to expect at this point, but like it has some deep cuts and some songs where it's like this is just wild to hear in a $1 billion blockbuster movie. So
I think that this movie is reflective of just like how high the cultural dominance of this franchise was at that time. Like when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, no one thought it was going to be massive, massive, because it's not one of these big things. And here we are with the second one, and it's arguably better than the first one, depending on who you talk to. You know, it's very, very emotionally like hard hitting to the point where like literally every day at 7:02 p.m. Pacific time, you on Father's Day, you get some people just talking about this movie. Like it's just synonymous with it. James gets taken way more seriously post these 2 movies than the previous anything else. You know, like we would not be getting those delightful pictures out of Cleveland right now if it wasn't for these 2 movies just absolutely knocking everybody's socks off. Maybe it's just our fan base is a little tilted because I never really experienced anybody saying anything bad about these 3 at all. But you know, on Twitter, on social media, in person, people are different. You know, people are like whatever.
I also feel like I don't hear a lot of conversation about this movie to begin with, like beyond, like you said, like the Father's Day stuff or just like the random clips that will circulate around on Twitter or just in the discourse. Like we just don't talk about this movie as often as we talk about the first one and as often as we like now talk about the third one. And even like the holiday special, I feel like because it's so perennial has already been talked about a lot more. And so it's like, yeah, this movie just like kind of slips through the cracks in a way that is really interesting to me. I also forgot to mention in my like reasons to advocate for it, it is one of the first movies that I feel like really like supported the Elizabeth Debicki being tall initiative, and so that alone we have to support it for that. So
I gotta say, I've seen more of Yondu die on Twitter than I have seen this movie in person, which is crazy. But yeah, it's very silly because I just don't like. I can respect something without being like, oh, it's my cup of tea. So I can understand that completely, like the first one and the third one, especially because we're so immediate after the third one that and like it or not, the series, the franchise is bigger than it's ever been. So more people saw Volume 3 than saw the second one. Like I'd be willing to go out on a limb and say that. So yeah.
And as Ryan Reflex says in the chat, it gave us Sylvester Stallone in the MCU. So what's not to like about that? But yeah. All right, Aaron, what is your pick for the most misunderstood MCU movie?
Man, so like this whole exercise, although like, you know, birthed by all of us, but it's not like my complete utter cup of tea to do just because of my weirdness with rewatching and like reconsuming things. But I will say, it wasn't that hard to pick, and it is a Spider-Man Far From Home. Like the second of the Tom Holland trilogy, the follow-up to both Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Endgame, somehow, some way, Civil War, like follows up a ton of stuff and manages to do it with really, really like a lot of aplomb. And I feel like as Tom's outings as the character, as strong as now funny, we're in the middle of this thing is not that good with Spider-Man No Way Home right now as well, to point out this thing actually holds up a ton better on rewatch than you really think it is. One of my keys for Spider-Man stuff is that it does not have to be Tobey Maguire. It does not have to be that. It doesn't even have to be the Kirby stuff if you don't want it to be. It can be a young girl and a giant robot. It can be Nick Cage punching guys while he's eating steaks. It can be a ham. It can be a cat that lives in the back of Miles Morales' backpack. I am down to see and feel all of it as a person who really enjoys. And my real first true crazy investment with the character is from Ultimate Spider-Man, which is different in some fun, key ways from our 616 version of Peter Parker. And now, people hilariously, in the new Ultimate Universe, treat as the true Spider-Man. We don't talk about the one that goes on in the regular comics. So, you get Peter with hilarious survivor's guilt, just an insane amount of pressure for a boy who's already prone to navel-gazing after Endgame, trying to figure out if he's going to live up to be Iron Man. And that is funny because it's like weird meta commentary. And only has grown more salient meta commentary in the years afterwards, which is very funny. Wants no part of it, goes to Europe with his friends. There are weird anomalies. A turn from Nick Fury that I feel like people would gnaw off their left arm for now happens, where he's tracking weird anomalies, or is he? And a new hero bursts into the scene. And another big strength of this film, I feel like it's underrated, is Jake Gyllenhaal's hysterically funky behind. He is hysterical as Quentin Beck in this movie. Rewatching it is a joy to do the Where's Waldo with him in the background, to see the staging of that climactic scene in the bar where he's explaining why he's doing what he's doing. In my screening, we all forgot that he was Mysterio, and obviously he's a freaking liar until it really happens. Then we're like, oh my God. And it was just a screen with a bunch of normal, it wasn't a critic screening, it was just a bunch of normal fans hooting and hollering the entire way through. Night Monkey, all the silly stuff. Tony's amazing in this film as Flash. It's very funny. It's sub-hysterical. And the first kernels of like, you know what, this MJ Peter pairing that everybody's like, I don't really know if I totally buy this thing, totally cements by the end of it for me, because I had just come off of working summer camps with kids and like teenage age kids, and I'm like, yeah, this is how it goes. I've seen this 4 times in the last 2 summers. This poor boy doesn't know what to do. He's completely out of his depth. And you just see them just mooning after each other from far away from over the football field, and I'm talking to the counselors like, you think he's going to ask by the time we get out of here? Like, you think he's actually going to do it? So that stuff is all positive, too. Him shirking it, the weird CGI nightmare fuel dream that still lives in Brandon Davis's head rent-free with zombie Iron Man is one of the more striking things from, like, this period of Marvel movies. Use the Peter Tingle hallway scene is wild. I love it so much. And I love that it's a verdict because it's like, hey man, instead of you just doing a big insane, of course it's like this dweeb with a lab coat and a bunch of CGI VFX stuff trying to play you, and tapping into what makes you yourself allows you to save the day. And also possibly top 3 post-credit scene in all MCU. Like me going, oh my God, and the entire crowd going, oh my God, without everybody dying was delightful upon first. So yeah, I think that this is fine. I think this is good.
You made a really convincing argument. I have only ever seen this once. So I'm wanting to actually rewatch it. I saw it once in theaters and it was just like, there was so much going on. It was the summer after Endgame. There were so many movies to go see. I just like never revisited it. And like now think I'm going to go back and rewatch it. You made really convincing points. I do have my qualms with the movie. I do think like there's certain plot points. Like it's still hilarious to me that like his entire class conveniently got snapped and then like all get to be revived and be in the same grade still when they're revived and stuff. But like,
wait, hold on. Wait, what about the kid who's hot? What the kid who gets hot over the
But see,
over the
he's
break?
just the random new one. No, because I think they said like he didn't.
Oh yeah, he's younger and he grew up, and so he's in their class now.
But it's just like so funny and convenient that like every single friend and like person that Peter knows is like they all conveniently got dusted and conveniently got brought back at the same time. But like that is to me what Beatty being weird about Ned having magic is with like No Way Home. It's like I can let it slide. But yeah, I definitely need to revisit this. You've made some really good points. I will say this movie birthed one of my favorite jokes, which is people go to the bridge that's from the end of this movie and they play Taylor Swift songs about Jake Gyllenhaal and they're like, here are the 2 bridges that killed Jake Gyllenhaal. And it is just every TikTok about that is utterly delightful. So bravo, Aaron.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's great.
No one will be surprised to hear that I've seen this movie many times, but that's kind of the case with all of these movies. I love this movie, and it is weird that sometimes I have to see people defending it, and I'm like, when did this happen? When I didn't know that this movie had some haters, and I guess it does. But I think Endgame's a hard act to follow, and I think that they did a good job just in terms of it's fun. I really like seeing how people blip back. I like that they made jokes about it, like where they're in the gym and everyone's screaming. I think that's like a good way to approach it, because it's like the opposite of in WandaVision when they're in the hospital. Yeah, what we see in a high school gym is going to be different from a hospital, and I like that range that we get. And in the beginning when they do the in memoriam and it's just a blurry photo of Vision because there's like no photos of Vision. There's really good stuff on there. But one thing, there's a tweet going on recently where it was a bunch of MCU villains, and it was like all MCU villains that were wasted, and a lot of them I didn't agree with, but could understand why they put on there, except Ultron. Crazy, insane choice. And Mysterio, also an insane choice, because Mysterio's amazing in this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal crushes it. He's so funny. Like, and it's just everything he does in this movie is so entertaining. I truly love this movie. I think it's a great, and you know what's, I don't, it might even be my third favorite of the three. This is just like the Guardians trilogy. I think all three of these movies are solid. I'm one of the weirdos at Homecoming's their favorite.
That's her favorite.
Yeah,
I love Homecoming's my favorite
why.
Spider-Man movie.
Can't imagine why.
I will say, to your point about,
I'm carrying my Keaton anymore. I'm in a new spot. My Keaton's not right there.
I will say, to your point about the villain thing, because I saw that tweet, I saw your response to that tweet, and like the only argument I can make is like, because like, yes, he was a great villain, yes, it worked really well, but it like still was not fully comic accurate. It's like he wasn't actually a magician. That wasn't actually his like thing. Like all of the layers of the gaslighting and like the CGI suit and all of the stuff that he's doing still worked in the context of the movie, but it also felt like not really what Mysterio normally is in the comics. So I get why they were arguing that, but I also think your argument is also very solid. So
fair.
I'm sad he didn't show up in No Way Home. I'm still sad. I'm more sad about that than the Venom stuff. I'm like, guys, Gyllenhaal coming up and be like, ha, I'm back out of nowhere would have killed me. I'd be like, 10 out of 10, this is the best movie in the entire MCU. Where did he come from? Where has he been? No one explains it. He gets yeeted off again into somewhere else. It would have been like, yes, absolutely.
Willem Dafoe Goblin just like, get out of here. No, absolutely not.
That would be great. It would be great.
This has been so delightful already, and we're already halfway through. We're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and when we come back, we're each going to share our most misunderstood non-MCU movies. So stay tuned for that, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Welcome back to Phase Zero, where we are sharing our favorite misunderstood Marvel movies. We are now in the non-MCU portion of the show, so things are about to get super wild because we decided that definition could mean anything you wanted it to be. So get ready for that. Jamie is going to go first, and I'm very excited to hear your research and your preparation for this part of the show.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me tell you, at first I thought we were only doing MCU, and when I found out we were doing non-MCU, it was no-brainer what I was going to pick. And that is the Dolph Lundgren Punisher from 1989.
Oh, I picked the wrong poster. I am just realizing that now. All right,
let's
not include that poster.
Not the big version of my face.
Well, that's
So-
actually a great. What are you gonna say? Because I think that's a great way to kick off what I have
Keep
to
going.
say. Okay. I would like to add that obviously John Bernthal in the Netflix stuff is the best iteration of Punisher. Obviously, like no one is denying that he wins. Top tier Punisher, obviously. But when it comes to the movies, I'm sorry, the Dolph one is superior. And let me start by saying Thomas Jane was a good Punisher. That not his fault. Thomas Jane innocent. I hate that movie. I think it's a terrible movie. And do you know how hard it is for me to say I hate the only Marvel movie featuring my favorite human being on the planet, John Travolta?
See, that's why I assumed.
Yeah.
I assumed you were picking because you just said The Punisher, and so stupid me. I was like, you didn't put the year when we were talking about this in Slack, and so I stupidly was like, she obviously means the one that John Travolta's in, and I'm now realizing my mistake. But yeah, keep going.
I think I did say Dolph, but that's fair. Either way, no, I do. I think the Thomas Jane movie is bad. A very good representation of Tampa, Florida, which is near where I'm from, but otherwise awful. And again, I can't stress enough how much I want to like that movie because it's the only Marvel movie having John Travolta. And then we've got Warzone, which I also think is like it's better than the 2004 one, but I just don't think it's very good. But Dolph, I was gonna wear a Dolph shirt and I forgot because I woke up like 5 minutes before we started recording this. But what can you do? Okay, first of all, it's not that this movie is a good Marvel movie. It's a great 80s action movie. And something to know about me is that I love 80s and 90s action movies. And this movie has good action to the point where Stan Lee gave his blessing for this film, but then when it came out, he condemned it for being too violent, which I think is a great way to recommend this film. Like, Stan Lee thought it was too violent for The Punisher. Amazing. Some flaws, like he's never wearing the skull, which turns out because they didn't want him in the spandex suit, and I guess they just didn't have the foresight to be like, maybe just slap it on the back of his jacket. But his outfit is still pretty cool. But fans were pissed. Just like can you imagine if we had been around in 1989?
Lord.
Like,
Oh my God.
I genuinely assumed that like it was some kind of weird rights issue. Nope. It just they were like, no, but the skull is on his knives. And okay, action. I must say I'm a huge Dolph fan. I love Dolph. I love the core four, which is Sly, Arnie, Dolph, and JCVD. If one of those four men are in movies, I'm showing up. And Dolph is so funny because like they kind of paint on his beard a little bit, like his scruff, and sometimes his face is just like smudged of his own beard. It's hilarious. And he's just like, yeah, I'm doing Punisher things. And it's barely a Marvel movie, but there are little Easter eggs at one point. So in this iteration, it's his wife and two daughters that were killed. And at one point they show a flashback of his daughters and they're both wearing Spider-Man pajamas. So there's like little Easter eggies in there. And I just can't stress enough how like, okay, is it like a great Marvel movie? No. Is it a great 80s action movie? Yes. Just like how when I watched the first Blade, I'm not thinking Marvel. I'm thinking awesome Blood Rain vampire movie from 1998. And this is very similar in that. And I want to shout out that it was directed by Mark Goldblatt, who only ever directed one other film. He was an editor. And I'm just going to put off some of his movies that he edited. First of all, he edited the only other Marvel project he worked on was he did edit X-Men The Last Stand, which is actually pretty funny.
Wow.
But he has, this is just some of his credits as an editor. The Howling, Halloween 2, The Terminator and Terminator 2, Commando, True Lies, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Detroit Rock City, Bad Boys 2, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This man is one of like the most prolific editors, and he directed this Punisher movie. And what's also really random and weird was I rewatched The Punisher on Friday, and then that night at midnight, I went to the Video Archive Cinema Club here at the Vista and saw a midnight showing of this old great Joe Dante movie that I love called Hollywood Boulevard, and he was a PA on Hollywood Boulevard back in the 70s. Love that. It was meant to be. I was meant to choose this movie because of all of that. And also, I learned a little fun behind the scenes story, which is there's a story of Dolph, and he's being like, well, back then we didn't really have, CGI and stuff. So either I was falling off a building or a stunt guy was falling off a building. He's like, and I fell 60 feet and I missed the mat and I hurt my back and they cut the scene out of the movie. And that was my favorite thing I learned about the Dolph Punisher. You guys, I'm sorry. This movie's awesome. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. But also, if you're like, don't think 80s action movies are cool, I just like can't help you. I don't know what to do about you. So that is my spiel about why the Punisher starring Dolph Lundgren, not Thomas Jane, is the best Punisher movie.
Bravo. I have not seen this, like, full stop. So you have made a very convincing argument, because I do love a good, like, ridiculous 80s action movie, and I do love Dolph Lundgren. So I love it. I definitely will check this one out.
It's so funny. Like, so when things don't appeal to me, I could sometimes derive a secondhand level enjoyment from the energy and the absolute fervor of my friends. And you can tell Jamie will ride at dawn for Dolph Punisher, which is great. And you know what? Since we're all just doing multiverse nonsense anyway, and he's getting older now, he's not in as many things, and he's talked about it. Like, and there's like that awesome picture of him and Bernthal and TA, like they're all there together. I'm like, there's a certain corner of the internet. I don't know if I agree with that corner of the internet, but a certain corner of the internet that's like their dream, man. Like, that's like what they want. So please do. It is like I said to other people, I'm like, these things used to get made differently. Like, they wouldn't even think for a second, hey man, it's not a problem if we don't have the skull on it. It'll be fine in an age before now. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. I have not seen the movie, but I love the presentation.
Two more things to add, a little tease, is that there are a lot of badass women in this movie. Like, the villain is a woman.
Oh, hell yeah.
For a lady villain.
Oh,
but
man,
also,
put her on the wheel.
Yeah, Punisher's little sidekick is like a down in his luck kind of unhoused thespian who is constantly like speaking in rhyme and sending the Punisher off on like, oh, I saw this betwixt where we are, the children has been kidnapped. And it's like, where did this guy, why does he exist? I love it. It's so good.
Oh my gosh. My favorite Punisher comics are the ones that throw him in like the weirdest situations possible. Like, there was a mini series a couple of years ago that like spun out of an event, and it was him and Foggy Nelson and like Thor's goats, and they were like traveling through the cosmos, like trying to avenge all of these like kids whose parents had gotten kidnapped by like frost giants or something. So I love the weird stuff that like doesn't make any sense for Punisher to do, and it sounds like this movie is that. And I'm very, very on board with that.
Favorite Punisher thing is Frankencastle.
Yes, that too.
And we're never gonna see it.
At this point, who knows? Nothing's impossible. I don't know. It would be like the funniest thing. Special presentation if we were still doing this.
I would love no more. Go ahead and put him in the Midnight Suns that way. I know the fans would be mad, but I'm in the background like, this is how I win.
Yes, 1000%. All right, well, great job, Jamie. Great job, Jamie. All right, so for my favorite misunderstood non-MCU Marvel movie, this was why I wanted us to do non-MCU ones, because I wanted to be able to talk about this, and I feel like after our X-Men rewatch, this movie is even more relevant. Calling it a movie is also generous. It is a TV movie. It was technically like a pilot for a TV show that never fully happened, and it is Generation X from 1996. It is not great. I will just tell you that right now. Quality-wise, it does have a lot of flaws, but there is a charm to it that is absolutely infectious. The cast of it is, we've got Emma Frost, we've got Banshee, we've got Jubilee, we've got Monet St. Croix, we've got just kind of this random smattering of characters that they threw into this TV movie. And it is, if I remember correctly, shot at the same mansion that they ultimately shot the Fox movies in, which is just kind of funny to see all of these years later. And it is just the perfect portrait of just like weird 90s movie of the week kind of mentality mixed with the like kids superhero show. There's like shades of Power Rangers in here. There's shades of just like super weirdness. And it all works for me somehow. It is very watchable, even as it is not great at the same time. I will say, if you do want to watch it, the entire thing is on YouTube, which that is how I have watched it. Like, it is not accessible in any like legal official way, but someone uploaded their VHS recording on YouTube, and that is where it is currently available. The sound quality, not the best, but you can still understand what's going on. But yeah, it is my favorite live action Emma Frost, which I know the bar's kind of low, as we discussed in a lot of our X-Men episodes, but it really, really works for me, to the point where anytime I see Finola Hughes, who plays Emma in this movie, anytime I see her on like a soap opera or something in the background, I'm just like, that's Emma. Like, that feels like Emma to me. And again, it has some flaws. They cast a white actress for Jubilee, which is not great, but it's the 90s, and the actress still does the best that she can with what she's given. And it's just corny, cheesy, fun. And I also feel like it having all of these flaws, but all of these good things, paved the way for what we ultimately got with the Fox movies. Like, we needed to get something like this out of our system in order to really get to where we ultimately did with the movies. So yeah.
this excites me because I've never seen this, and I can tell it's my jam for sure. And I was even my first like this is clearly a YouTube thing. Like it's like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. Like the only way you can
Yes.
watch that is on YouTube, and there's a specialness to that. This was a TV movie. Was this meant as like a pilot for a show, or was it
Yes.
actually okay?
It was technically a TV movie. They kept trying at that time of like, we're going to keep making TV movie pilots basically. And like, if any of them really, really succeed, then we'll branch off from there. None of them succeeded enough to actually warrant a show. But this was definitely like, they had like huge contests you could do. They have like, you can find like the Burger King tie-ins for that were like all done. Like there's so much went into this movie and ultimately nobody really watched it. But the people who have watched it do enjoy it for what it is.
Anything that compares to Power Rangers, I'm ready.
It's just so funny. Like these things are so managed now that this would never happen. This would never occur, which is like really, really kind of sad. We're all poorer for it. I have only done like cursory Google searches and seen screen grabs from this thing before Jenna just explained it to us. And now I'm like fascinated because like Jamie said, it has the sheen of early 90s tween programming to it while also still trying to like reach above that, which is hysterical. It's always interesting. These sort of things just don't occur. And it's also weird, almost lost media too, because some person decided, you know what, I should throw the VHS on YouTube. And for that, we salute your service. Because we would not be able to know. Who wants to guess what the eBay price of a VHS of this thing would be now?
Oh, it's gotta be like, I'm gonna get $130.
Yeah, there you go.
It also, it's totally the type of movie.
I'm just guessing. I thought you were actually looking.
I was laughing, Liz. I'm like, yes, let's do
It's totally
Price is
the
Right.
type of movie. Yeah, Price is Right. It's totally the type of movie where, like, if you go to a con and they have the booth of very dubiously pirated movies that are packaged in DVD cases and sold, like, they totally took someone's VHS recording and tried to sell it as a DVD. Like, this is the way that this movie lives on. I would kill for any sort of restoration of this that could actually make all of the dialogue actually legible and could make it fully the way that it was meant to be intended. But yeah, do you have the metrics?
guys,
Oh no,
I'm shook.
Oh, no.
$650.
Woo!
Like,
wow.
I've like paid like a little pricey for tapes, but that is insane. That's like one of the highest priced tapes I've ever seen.
Is it branded in any way, or is it just like a VHS tape that they're saying
That
is
bad boy, the
recorded on?
JVC.
Look, it's got like
Wow.
everything.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
So it's a legit tape.
Yo.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, Christmas at Jamie's house. Let's all pitch in.
Yeah, right. $650 for a tape. I'm a millionaire. I'm Taylor Swift money rolling in.
Oh man.
Again,
top hat.
it's free on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just watch it that way. Like, as people in the chat are saying, the views on that video are probably going to spike this afternoon, and I will feel honored to have contributed to that in any way. But yeah, Generation X, it is flawed, it is a mess, but it is a very, very fun mess. And as I have said on the show with certain other movies, I love a messy movie. So
there's no normal X-Men movie.
no.
There just is. There, none of them are normal. That's what
Absolutely not.
I'm learning. Dear God. Oh man.
All right. Well, so to kick us off to end the show today, I'm so excited for Aaron's last pick.
Oh dear God. Okay. So when we discussed this, I was like, do we have to do MCU things, or could we just stretch the concept out as far as it'll possibly go? And Jenna, big of sound-minded body, said you do whatever the heck you want. So
Yeah.
I'll do Men in Black. Some of y'all might not know. In 91 through, I think I want to say 92. This little Marvel series. They got through a series of weird comic book adaptation acquisitions, ended up in their care. And funny enough, the comic it's based on is radically different than the comics that Marvel would put out after this movie came out, which is hilarious. I think with rumors, shall we say, of other weird Marvel properties that are going to get adaptations that you can go find on the internet if you're really that interested in what we're alluding to here. I wouldn't be mad at something like this appearing again in the era we had of special presentations or whatever, because the concept fits so cleanly into that weird supernatural side of these things that it would be fascinating to watch. But really, it's just people like to down on the fun Will Smith movies or just talk about the memes from them, but then ignore the fact that they're actually really good functional summer blockbuster films. And there's a reason that he was like the secret sauce. His early 90s, like late 80s run of just being the guy you get to come be in a fun movie should not take second place to like all the serious Will Smith movies, which some of them are really, really good. My dad called me today yelling about 7 pounds. And I was like, sir, I don't know why you're so upset about this. Why are you upset about this? Like, why today? But Men in Black thrives on Will Smith and Tommy. Just doing their thing. Just being bros. Just, oh, it's so good. It's so crazy. It feels so of its time, but because we've come back around to all of that crap being like what kids dress like now, I literally have seen a black teenager walking in the same outfit he has on at the beginning of the movie before he gets recruited in real life. And due to respect for other people, did not take a picture, but was like, yo, what? We're still making red nylon jackets, giant oversized red nylon jackets. What are we doing? It's just a lot of fun. It's like like the sort of weightless. We had no idea this thing was gonna have 4 sequels. Why does this thing have 3 or 4 sequels? Does that even matter? The level of like weird special effects for the time, which I probably haven't aged great, but are ingrained in everybody's mind. And freaking Vincent D'Onofrio in one of the most weird things you could introduce to a child as the guy who gets unfortunately roped into the middle main plot of this movie and is just doing Jenna's favorite thing, which is just random side quests before becoming absolutely appropriately entangled in the heart of the film. It's great. It's awesome. There's a Kids WB series that's great too, that has a darker tone than you'd think. The comics are good. You should go find them. And shout out to Will for helping prime the pump for everybody to stop writing dumb articles about how the box office is dead this year. It's the gift that keeps on coming. I don't know how many times someone has like, you know those posts on Twitter where some like random police department's like, we took these guns off the street. Somebody's like, man, look at this noisy cricket. It's in the groundwater now. It's great. It's delightful. I will step to the bat for this. I'll step to the bat for freaking Wild Wild West and its dumb musical tie-ins.
Yes!
Me and Ariel were going somewhere
Yes.
2 weeks ago, and the first 3 milliseconds of this played on my Spotify while I was driving, not looking at the phone. I'm like, oh shoot, it's Here Come the MIBs. Then it started. She's like, why? Why do you know the first 3 milliseconds of this song? Why? I'm like, it's in my brain. You know, it's in the deepest of the dark horizon. Like I said, hits the sides, like pants and boom, and then pants and boom. It's boom like boom. Black suits fill the room up. It's insane. I love this stupid movie. I don't care. Like, it's also, we don't get Tommy Lee Jones anymore, which makes me sad. It's just good. It's just a good time. I wanted to talk about something I found fun. I saw people talking about Fantastic Four and Hulk, and those things are good. Like, first of all, I'll step to Hulk 2003. That's a way different film. Like, imagine after, like, knowing from the future what this genre would be and how different and weird that movie is, it would be something accepted. And, of course, jury's out on Fantastic Four. We'll figure out. I'm sure Brandon will drag us through a rewatch of Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, and Four Stick before it comes out. Sugar water.
Like, a couple years ago, I did this on another podcast where we went through a lot of the old, not like Marvel movies that not connected. And so I watched the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, and I'm like, I cannot believe I'm gonna have to watch that a second time, like because it's too long ago. I'm like, that is just so upsetting to me that I have to watch it again. But Aaron, I love that you picked Men in Black because at like 1997, I was 7. I saw this movie 10,000 times.
Of course.
But it's been a while. It's been a few years, and you got me like, oh, I want to get my eyes on this because what a duo. You're right, Vincent D'Onofrio, excellent work in this movie. Everyone is just doing the most. Who is it? Rip Torn is in there.
Yeah, Rip Torn's in it. Yeah, it is sick in this too.
Like Also, I mean, growing up in Florida, I was a Universal kid more than I was a Disney kid.
Man.
And the Men in Black ride is amazing, where you just go through and shoot aliens, which is kind of like the Toy Story ride at Disney. Oh,
Yes.
I'm like, also for all my Yord hoarders out there, Charlie Barnett, it has a very small role in Men in Black 3.
Really?
So if you're a Yord hoarder, watch the third one and peep your eyes, because you will spot Charlie Barnett in Men in Black 3.
I love
JK, let her interview Charlie so we could ask about what it was like
Seriously.
to get mind scars from Vincent D'Onofrio rolling around on this set.
Oh my
gosh.
I agree with Jamie. I'm so glad that you picked this. I'm glad you're also educating people that this is a Marvel comic technically, because yeah, it was initially published by Malibu, who then got purchased by Marvel. Nothing really came out of that acquisition other than the fact that this is technically now a Marvel movie. Like the Malibu line very quickly went defunct, and like nothing really good came out of it. But yeah, I agree with Jamie. I have not watched this in the longest time. You really have me itching to do a rewatch, and I do think like there's a version of this that should still work today. I'm sad that the Hemsworth Tessa Thompson movie did not really like move the needle at all, because I feel like a TV series in this style, or just some sort of like weird wacky movie, like I feel like we need that and we don't even know it. Like I definitely think that this should come back in some capacity. Even like I would lose my mind if like somehow Secret Wars is tied into this somehow, because it's like it's technically a Marvel property. We just bring D'Onofrio as his character back in. I don't know, like there's a weird way to make it work, and like it would confuse everybody, and I would love it so much.
Gotta give Will Smith $3 million to pop on screen for 5 minutes and be like, yeah, that's it. And that's it. No sneaky lines. Like
like Natalie Portman in Endgame.
Yeah.
Remember when they were going to do a Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Wild.
Yeah.
Like, what a crazy thing. I would have watched that. Sure.
Channing Tatum was just talking about 23 Jump Street, like in an interview that just came out today. And he was like, yeah, the script is amazing. We still want to do it. And I'm like, I really need that movie to happen, even if we don't get the Men in Black crossover. But yeah. Great pick, Aaron. Like, I'm so glad we could educate the people and just talk about it. But yeah, I think this was an absolutely delightful episode. I'm so glad that we did this. Jamie, do you have anything you would like to leave the listeners with today?
Oh yeah, there's so many good movies out in theaters, and you should go see them and not have your phone out or talk during them. That would be so cool if you gave those movies your full attention. On Wednesday, keep an eye out for my Maxine review, which I haven't seen yet. So I can't tell you if the review is going to be positive or negative, but I'm seeing it tonight and I'm really excited about it. So keep your eye out on that business. If you haven't seen any of the movies we talked about today, watch those movies. I'm definitely going to check out Generation X. So that's really exciting. Thanks for putting this together, Jenna.
Absolutely. Aaron, what about you?
It's at Someone Corner on Twitter. So that 23 jumpsuit quote is actually to us. So you go read the article and watch us actually ask Channing Tatum about it, and then also probably ask him about a certain car shark from the bayou. As well, I like to shout out. I watched the entirety of We Are Lady Parts over the weekend, and I mean, I'm just gonna watch everything Nina Manzoor makes now. I guess I'm locked in this dance we're gonna do forever. That's where I am. Sad that BD is not here. That kind of is like, boo. He's off enjoying himself. He sends his love. He's like, you guys are picking underrated things, and I don't get to be there for. And
I would love to know what his picks are. I would be wild, but yeah,
we can do this again too. Like there are
totally
plenty to cover.
Yeah, we will definitely cover this when the four of us are on here, because I need to hear what he has to say. But yeah. I'm at Hey It's Jenna Lynn on social media. As Jamie said, there's so many good movies to watch right now. Watch The Bike Riders over the weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Go check that out. And go read some comics. As we stated, everything we talked about today is technically tied to a comic, even Men in Black. Go check out those comics. Go check out anything your heart desires, because there are so many good comics out there to read. We will be back on Wednesday with another normal episode talking about whatever Marvel news happens between now and then. So that should be a lot of fun. And don't forget to subscribe to us on the podcast platform of your choice and leave a 5-star review. And play the show for your mom, play the show for your dog, and we shall see you on Wednesday.